Welcome to Steps Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in every single week. As you guys know, I have a different guest who will come on the show and talk about all things ADU, all things multifamily, all things real estate investment strategies. And I'm very selective of who I have on. These are very highly vetted individuals, highly experienced people who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of value to bring to you guys every single week. If you have someone who you think might be a good fit for the show, make sure you guys reach out to me. And another way to stay connected, I know that some of you guys are listening in every single week on the podcast, and you may not know that I do have my active YouTube channel where I'm always sharing other sorts of tips and tricks on what I'm actively doing on myself as an ADU strategist and consultant and investor. And then also, make sure you guys reach out and follow me on Instagram, StepSellsADU. I constantly have different content on there showcasing a lot of what the strategies that we're talking about on this podcast, whether it's midterm, ADUs, multifamily, acquisitions, you name it, just property management, mom life, all the things. Make sure you guys follow me on there so we can continue to cultivate this relationship. Now enjoy this episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Steph Sells Homes. As you guys know, this is a podcast on all things ADU, all things real estate investing, and today is no different. We're here to talk to you guys about financing, a very fun topic, but we're going to make it fun and engaging. So please stick around to the end because we have so many different hacks and strategies for you guys. This is episode 84 with RJ Jaramillo. I typically do a bio readout and share a little bit about the guest, but I actually am going to do things differently today, and we're going to have RJ just tell us a little bit about what he does. He's talking to us live from his JADU, and I don't know from where. We don't have to say it. We just know that
it's okay. San Diego.
San Diego. There you go.
Rancho Bernardo.
Amazing. Yeah. So he's talking to us from there live. I'm handing it over to him and he'll share a little bit about himself. Thank you, RJ.
Thank you, Stephanie. I was just chatting with you about the growing scenarios of our Gen Xers, baby boomers that are looking for housing options. And there's so many twists of what's going on in our world with ADUs, and it's just growing day by day. So a scenario I had is dear gentleman up in Riverside reached out to me, and he's in his mid 80s and his wife is getting diagnosed with dementia. And he just had a very candid conversation with me. He said, "Hey, RJ, look, the strategy I want to share with you and to be so vulnerable is, I want to manage the best possible living arrangements for my wife. We don't want her to go to a memory care center." So his strategy was to put the ADU in the backyard, not for his wife, but the caregiver to come Monday through Friday. And it was the epiphany of understanding his life chapter of how quality of life was so much more important to him to help cater that quality of life for his wife than to put her in a home and live out her best days, which he's just like in tears. And to connect at that level is just pushing my drive, my inspiration to do this and go this direction, because, and I know the baby boomer generation just started hitting 80 this year. And it is going to be for the next 15 to 20 years of this generational transition of a large population of them are homeowners with a lot of equity, but looking for housing solutions. And in this scenario, it was managed care and not putting the person in the unit, but actually the caregiver in the unit so that the person, in this example, the wife, can stay in surroundings that are familiar to her, which is her home. And so it just brought a tear to my eyes, as well as giving me the boost that I need to keep going forward in this ADU journey.
I love that. That's so inspiring. And I think I'm not sure if we had talked about it last time, but I think it goes to show like you're really passionate about what you do. And what I love about you is that you have a niche within a niche within a niche. And those niches are, he specializes in ADUs, right?
Right.
also catering to baby boomers, which is almost like a taboo subject that most people don't even mention. Like, yeah, we throw out baby boomers are getting ready to exit businesses and baby boomers are sitting on a lot of equity. But who's actually looking out for the baby boomers and looking at strategies that they can talk to with family members, which millennials, Gen Zs, Gen X, like, how can we get all these generations to coexist and help each other, but especially the baby boomers. So you bring a lot of awareness around baby boomers and how they can leverage equity for a better lifestyle. And that's
Right.
an example
Exactly.
of that
Right.
that story. But tell people a little bit about your story as well, like a little
It's
bit
a
about your background, and then it's
yes.
perfect timing to talk about your ADU journey as well.
Yes, I live and breathe the ADU by example. And a quick bio on me is I started in the mortgage industry in 1989. I graduated college at San Diego State in 87. I am a baby boomer. I'm 60 years old. And my journey being in the mortgage industry for over 35 years is I've seen the ups and the downs and the recessions and the rate changes, but I haven't seen the compaction of housing, obviously, as bad as it has been in the last 20 years. And, when I started the industry in 89, San Diego was a very small town city growing into a big multi, town city. And it's just crazy how much growth I've seen San Diego go through. And I remember when I started in the loan business, the average loan amount was about $135,000. So that gives you an idea. Yeah. And I was selling 8.5, 10.5% interest rates. So fast forward to the last 5 years, my story started in 2019. And I am kind of like a forward thinker, and I've been paying attention to housing in San Diego. And my wife is in the medical field, so she's very analytical. I'm very marketing, but it's a great combination.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 4 kids, and I remember the moment we were enjoying a glass of wine together in our backyard, and it was about, I want to say it was spring of 2019. And I had mentioned to her, because all 4 of our children have all graduated college, have all started moving on in their careers, and we were witnessing the empty nester experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sharing with my wife, I said, I have this vision of what I think we should be doing in this next chapter is we should build an ADU. And this is, again, 2019. So the laws in San Diego were evolving and changing quickly. And I realized that I could build an ADU in my backyard. And I have a single story house here in Rancho Bernardo, and it's a large lot, about a 1.25 acre lot. So
Wow.
I was explaining to my wife that on the back slope of our yard, we can build an ADU going straight off the slope. And with that slope, we can put the junior ADU below it. So I was trying to explain the concept of having this 1,200 square feet off the backyard and 800 square feet underneath the backyard. I was speaking, a different language to her, and she was
Mm-hmm.
just listening very patiently to me. And as I'm doing a little bit of sales, and I'm explaining, hey, this is the purpose and this is the future that we need to be thinking, because as we get older, there are a couple things that we need to think about. Number one, we both have aging parents. So if one of them passes, we can move them into the ADU and stay in the big house, the front house.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is one of our 4 kids, or maybe 2 of our 4 kids, or maybe 3 of our 4 kids move back home. Of course, they're going to want to be independent because they're adults. An ADU solves that problem by sticking them in the backyard. And again, finally, I said, the third purpose is, you never know. We may want to rent the front house and move into the ADU ourselves and just live rent free. So if you could imagine post date 2019, we're having this springtime conversation. She looks at me and she says, okay, let's investigate. So we started the journey, and I found a good contractor at the time. Met up with ADU geeks down here in San Diego, made a relationship, and started the process. Put the deposit down. Construction started in the fall of 2019. So if you can imagine,
So you
Not
guys
more
took
than
action right away. I mean, that same year, I have people that have been contemplating for a year, trying to figure it out. So you're like, we're wasting no time. We're
the,
doing
the the good Lord was looking after me, because we all know what happened in 2020. Here
it.
I
Exactly.
was, construction started in 2019. Deposits of materials were already made. I was moving forward, and February 2020 hit. And my wife looked at me and she goes, "How did you know this is going to happen?" And of course, I mean, I'm looking like Nostradamus, but I just said this all worked out for a bigger reason. And sure enough,
Exactly.
construction went through. We didn't have any price spikes or any abandonment of labor or anything. And we had the place completed at the end of 2020, early 2021. And at that time, she had a girlfriend who was on Facebook, military family, looking to transfer to San Diego. And she said, "Oh, by the way, my girlfriend is on Facebook posting that her and her husband are transferring out to San Diego to finish out his career." So that was the moment where the third option of owning an ADU worked. We moved into the ADU. We rented out the front house to a military family. They have been there since, and it's been an incredible experience of living rent free and renting the front house with a positive cash flow and actually living the ADU life. So we
Wow.
we actually live it. And so whenever I meet with clients and I explain to them my story and how the three options were very important to cover, it just resonates with people, because I kind of mentioned the aging parents, the kids that want to move back home, or the option of living in it and renting the front house.
Well, we can close the podcast now. I mean, that was, you guys don't need to hear anything else. I'm just kidding. I mean,
So
I was just talking about this. Friday, I did a presentation, and I think I met you at the ADU Academy, right?
that's
That's where.
right. I'm wearing my name tag.
So yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't. I think mine is in my backpack, but yeah, we met at the ADU Academy, and that day I also talked about it in one of my slides because I emphasized a lot how ADUs are flexible, no matter what age group you're in, no matter what phase in your life you're in, no matter what lifestyle you're wanting to live. ADUs really help you meet that standard, whether it's for an aging parent right now and hopefully not, but once your aging parent or family member passes away, maybe it can be a rental. Maybe it can be for your kids who are going to at some point maybe come back, or maybe they're priced out of the market and they're going to come back with their entire family, wife and kids, or fiancés. And just kind of, it gives you so much leverage and flexibility to keep your wealth and be able to do so many things with your asset. It can be income producing later down the line. I mean, on the high end side of things, I've seen people get very creative too by turning them into wellness centers. That was a creative one. The story you told about the caregiver, that's even better. I mean, how beautiful that you're in a position to be able to build a home, you're in an ADU for the caregiver, to give her that space as well and keep your mom, in your home until you don't, until
Right.
things change. So ADUs sort of adapt with you and grow with you through your life, and that's why I'm such a huge advocate, and I love that you're living it. And so with that, tell us a little bit about what you're actively seeing right now, when
Well,
expressing
I,
like this with your clients.
I got to give you some credit, Stephanie, because I went to the ADU Academy. I listened to you. And again, the connection wasn't hitting that center part of my forehead where my brain is. But as I was listening to you, and as the story goes, I finished this ADU Academy and I start contemplating, how can I get the right tools in front of me to support? And I went the next day to the Tiny Fest. And the Tiny Fest is there in Del Mar, and there were
I was
obviously a
there
lot
too.
of displays, a lot of examples, a lot of people were there. And I was just walking around and having these one-on-one conversations. And just prior to the ADU Academy, one of my connections from my ADU build, Ari Gotti, who's at Homeplex,
Oh yeah.
inter- introduced me to Jonathan Pauly. And so in a moment of the best way to explain it is ADU Academy, Tiny Fest, talking to people, reconnecting with Ari, meeting Jonathan. It wasn't until I did the site visit of Clever Tiny Homes and understanding modular construction financing where the light went on. And I'm not taking anything away from contractors or developers, but from a loan perspective, I was looking at the one cost that can be under control, because we all know with construction costs, materials costs, it's a variable that it can move at any minute.
Right.
Well, here I'm speaking to Jonathan, and he's got a product that has a fixed cost, which is humongous for a lender. So my mind went everywhere. And when I left that Tiny Fest, after talking to people that were all around my age and looking for solutions for temporary housing, long-term housing, all the things that we just talked about, this is where my journey started. It literally started in spring of this year, and I just put my head down. And again, I don't want to give it the wrong name, but again, the stereotype in my mind was like, oh, ADUs are for investors. ADUs are, for people that are trying to create multi units. They're not slumlords. This is not just about someone who's an investor trying to build as many houses as they can. This
It's
is now
solving solutions, like actual.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We're
And those
here.
Clever units are awesome, by the way. Ari is a good friend of mine as well. We've worked and collaborated with a lot. He's actually going to be at my event next week, and I did also have one of my events. I showcased one of the Clever tiny home models that they had. So when we went to Tiny Fest, I had already seen that model because we had it on display at one of our events. And same as you, like I did another event where I had Preflex, which are SIP panels, structural insulated panels. There was also all these misconceptions around SIP panels. And when it comes to SIP panels and these manufactured homes that Clever does or Jonathan does, beautiful, like quality made units, right, that have fixed cost that really help solve immediate solution. Like those tiny homes for Clever, those are really great options right now for people that have experienced the fire, unfortunately, the LA fire.
Yes, you're so right.
I mean, one of his models that he has built, which is up to code so that you can just take the proper steps and add the permits and convert it into an ADU, that's genius too, right? Like I definitely hear what you're saying. I think a lot of people in the last couple of years have really kind of taken the stance with ADU, especially in San Diego with the bonus rule, right? They had to modify that because there was people taking advantage of building multiple units in a suburban neighborhood and not being mindful. I get that side of things, right? But not everybody does that. And
Right.
unfortunately, he or she ended up changing things for San Diego and the bonus program, but it's still there. It's still available. You just have to be mindful of where you build. But going back to these units, I mean, these Clever tiny homes really help solve that issue for the homeowner who wants a house for his mother and doesn't want to pay for hospice or assisted living. It also pays for, I have a preteen, so I'm like already thinking about, okay, can I send him to the ADU at 14? Is that too much to ask for?
They make a great studio model. The studio model will be perfect for your preteen.
Oh yeah, definitely. Exactly,
Just
right?
just far enough for you to throw your chancla.
Yeah. So, I mean, that serves a purpose there. They're also great for recreational, right? Like the event where I had one of the models was on a 40-acre ranch in Escondido. And they were going to set a couple of those models and rent them out, on Airbnb or midterm. So, yeah, great options, great solutions that people definitely overlook because we have
Right.
misconceptions around manufactured, even manufactured homes sounds, it
We
rubs
got to
people the
be
wrong way.
Yeah, we got to be careful of that word because these are not manufactured homes. They meet the construction
Exactly.
standards of a
Exactly.
modular home. And I work for Fairway Home Mortgage. I'm a lender with a mortgage banking background. So I'm mainstream. And so part of this journey has trying to educate mainstream mortgage industry about the uniqueness of financing because it's an easy fix to give somebody an equity line of credit, but it's a variable loan and it's not really purposeful. The DSCR products are great, but it's got to be non-owner occupied to use those formulas. And I'm one of many San Diego lenders down here that are leading the charge of making awareness that this is sustainable housing. It is always going to it's not only going to be sustainable, but it is going to prove on the books that it is a good investment to back these loans using the same non-owner commercial DSCR product ratios as you would for a homeowner. And I know that there's obviously way over my head in terms of compliance issues and why they won't do that. But I'm just saying, as I go through every battle of every borrower that I run into, and I do call it a battle because it is one of those things where you have to understand, okay, is this a lot purchase? Is this commercial construction? Is this residential construction? Is this multi-unit? Are we over 4 units? So all these variables in today's financing is one of the things that I specialize in terms of looking. I use the word pivot. And I say to every client, understand, I'm not telling you I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you that we're going to run into obstacles and we need to learn how to pivot. Now, pivoting to me is like a GPS telling you there's traffic ahead. And we just change the route to find the right loan. So I stumbled across the solution to many of these pivoting situations, and it's called the reverse second mortgage. So it is a second mortgage that is in the second, it's a reverse loan in the second position. So it's not a first reverse, excuse me. It's not a first reverse, it's a second. So this is for the homeowner that wants to keep their first mortgage intact with their low interest rate, but allow them to get a lump sum second with no repayment option because it's a reverse. So here's a solution that I stumbled upon using a reverse second mortgage to the homeowner that just wants the lump sum payment to purchase one of these modular, clever, tiny homes. Now, there are some age restrictions. There's state restrictions. There's FICO restrictions. But I can give
But
you
again, you're catering to the boomers, so yeah.
yes. Yeah, this
And
is for some
what
of the, go ahead.
instead of the restrictions, maybe we could talk about, because this podcast is dedicated for those boomers, right? So what would be those requirements
Well,
for?
I right now currently have 13 states approved to do this product. That would be California, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Montana, Nevada, Illinois, Oregon, Washington, Texas, and South Carolina. I think I got it all.
Okay.
And Utah. So what it is, it requires obviously 55 and up homeowner. You must own the home for at least 5 years. In Texas, you got to be 62 or older. And from the age group of 55 to 69, they can take up to 15% CLTV of their appraised value for the lump sum. I know that's a little, I actually have a calculator. So
Yes.
I give the borrower a calculator. They call me, we go over the scenario. And when I explain to them, it's an option to make the payment. So it is a fixed rate. And right now the rate is anywhere from 899 to 944, but it's fixed and they can make a payment, but it's designed to be a reverse second, which doesn't require a payment.
Got it.
So if you could imagine you're 55 plus, you have plenty of equity, and you're handed $300,000 to install your clever tiny home and
Right.
get the lot zoned and permitted, you basically have a loan already creating income, no mortgage payment, and they're up and running. And what's great about that combination, using the reverse second, the loan closes in less than 30 days. The Clever Tiny Home is built in about 30 days. The
Hmm.
permit, we're just waiting on permits.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what takes the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you've really narrowed down to this hack, right, and this niche with boomers and being able to help that specific avatar in our community. With with clients who need help renting ADUs for elderly people, do you help with that as well?
That would be something I would refer to a professional like you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know like LA has some incentives, but they don't have that program available right now. But yeah, I mean, midterms I think are great for boomers or even long term. That's definitely a strategy. I love that. Anything else you'd like to share? I think maybe
I
another
go ahead.
topic too that we had touched on was millennials, right? And like millennials being priced out of the market, millennials maybe sharing this information with their parents because sometimes it's lack of knowledge and you may not know that your parents are sitting on, you know, $300,000 to $500,000 worth of value there that they can
Right.
leverage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a I'm a one-man show and I'm constantly promoting and communicating and educating. I think the key is just
It's just to educate. Hmm.
educating the consumer. And again, many people are not even aware that there's a second reverse out there. And so I dedicate a lot of time. I'm hosting an event next week here in Rancho Bernardo. Just understanding the 55 and older community is the fastest growing home buyer market in our area because they're looking for these housing solutions. And
Right.
whether you're using the ADU to live in it yourself, like I did, or you're using the ADU to put a caregiver, or you have a kid coming back, the I guess the stereotype has changed in a very positive way. And you're right, with some investors were doing too many units on a lot, and they were causing a lot of disruption. And in any type of industry, you're going to see some bad
Right.
examples. The bad examples get the majority of the attention, but that's not true in most cases. The majority of the situation is everyone's very cognizant of the housing situation. And for millennials, sharing the tiny home movement is growing. I mean, I can only tell you that you've started something really good, Stephanie, and it's only growing. I mean, it's growing faster than you know it. I mean, I've got 13 states now that are proactively ADU friendly.
Oh yeah. And you'll see that it's going to become a nationwide thing and probably internationally. I mean, I know people in Europe are already doing it. I've interviewed people from Canada. I actually have Ox, who's a really good company out in Canada, and they do similar to Clever, but they focus on office spaces, but it's a very similar concept and they ship everywhere. So it's going to be nationwide and eventually, you know, more financing options will come to light, but it's important to kind of understand how creative do you need to get
Right.
financially in order to finance your project. And that's one thing I talk about, you know, over and over is there's no loan product that fits all.
Right.
Everyone's situation is different and everyone's motivation is different, everyone's time frame is different, budget, lifestyle, and the reason why they're doing it is different.
It's,
So
you nailed it.
but
You
this one
nailed it.
is, you know, a very specific one that I think caters to a lot of boomers. I mean, I think, like you said, so many of them are in that buyer market, and we could definitely capture that and help whoever needs assistance with that.
That's great. Yeah, I can tell you that this is definitely growing faster than we can keep up with. And the great thing about the Clever product is the construction standards are exactly meeting the construction standards of California, which are very
Mhm.
stringent. They go through the same permitting process and they fit mainstream lending, which means I can do mainstream lending where I'm going to say no more than a year ago, your only option was 21st Century, which is a good company, but that's a consumer loan. And
Right.
those rates are like credit card rates. And now with the invention and adaptation of Clever going with a modular unit classification, it allows me to help more customers. And bottom line, every investor, every realtor, everybody in the transaction is happy to see a happy client with a rate that they can live with and have options where a year ago there was very few options.
Very few. I agree. I love it. Yeah, this has been such an informative podcast. I don't think we've ever talked about second reverse mortgages or loan products. So it's great that we get to cater to a podcast to baby boomers and figure out ways to help. Whether you're actively experience this with a family member or of someone, and make sure you guys reach out. I'm assuming to reach out to you and schedule an appointment, they visit your
Yes,
website?
yes. Well, the website's under construction, so I'm
Okay.
going to give out my phone number and my email. It's really easy. My phone number is 619-807-0287. That's
Okay. And I'll
619.
make sure I add all of that information in the description. But yeah, like I said, if you know of anybody in the baby boomer era that's thinking of building an EDU, and maybe they haven't thought about it yet, but you can see that opportunity for them. Many times people are in stressful situations. I deal with a lot of trust sales. And sometimes I even pitch this option to the siblings or other family members, is keeping the asset. Don't like sell it, but why don't we
Right,
talk about maybe keeping it? If it's paid for, let's leverage that and maybe build more units. Or if you're going to sell it, maybe sell it and buy something else. But I think when there's deaths in the family, when you're dealing with baby boomers having to figure out their new living situation, which we're all going to have to go through at some point. So if you haven't experience that you're going to at some point. So think long term and, you know, maybe pitch it to somebody who may be able to benefit from this. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So it could be
right.
someone struggling. I've had it where we've had multiple siblings trying to save up and put a budget together for assisted living, which is sometimes 6 to 8 thousand a month, and maybe more than that if you're having full time service. So rather than spending that a month on assisted living, why not build the ADU and finance that, or maybe not even finance it, right? If you have other financing options available. So it's just talking to people, and sometimes what you don't know really hinders you without even knowing. And there's so many options out there to help you with your current living situation. So feel free to reach out and schedule a call with RJ. For any real estate services, reach out to me and you'll hear from us. We'll probably do a part two to this because I feel like it's not talked about enough. And it's, baby boomers are a big part of our community that I think we should continue to cater to, help them help us with multi generational living, and just help, other generations as well.
I look forward to seeing you in your next event.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you guys on the next one. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I hope you found this episode informative and helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat about ADUs and help you with your journey, whether it's consulting, acquisitions, management, you name it. Just reach out to me and let's schedule a quick call. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. I'll be back next week with another great guest and more insights on all things EDU. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.